many of you can tell me who's leading the conversation about food, farming, and ranching today? HSUS. Who else? Consumers. Who else? So who's leading the conversation? We've had lots of discussions about this, lots of presentations here. Okay. Who else? Jamie Oliver? Michael Collin? And is anybody answering agriculture? So my question to all of you, when you think about thought leadership, when you think about what's happening in food and farming today, is why can't we answer that we're leading the conversation? Now, because I'm working. Perhaps. I could cite study after study. You've all seen them. We know that we're not out ahead of this issue, right? We could go into all sorts of drama shows. We could talk about my love for Wayne Pacelli and your love. But I don't think we need to do that. I think that we need to talk about solutions. We all know we have a problem, and it's time to figure out exactly what to do about it. So when you consider the 98.5% of the population that is not on a farm today, my question to you is, why should they care? Really? Food can be grown anywhere in the world. So why should they care about what you do? I think it boils down to the values, it boils down to the validation, and it boils down to the voice. And that's what we're going to be talking about rapid fire this morning. Technology cooperating, we're going to do a couple of fun things. And my hope is at the end of this, you will have a personal plan, and I emphasize personal plan, to take home and figure out what your authentic voice for agriculture is. I know there's lots of great agricultural organizations represented in the room today. I personally think that the most authentic voice for agriculture boils down to the individual. Yes, it boils down to the farmer and rancher. It also boils down to the individuals who work for agricultural organizations who can share their own personal, authentic agriculture story. So let's talk about the values. When you look at all of the lovely things that are being said about agriculture today, what do you really think is being said about our values? We don't have any. We're a bunch of whores, rapists, we poison the environment, we poison food, we beat our animals. What have I missed? I mean, that's the reality, right? Money on their backs. We're making money on their backs, yeah. They're forced to perform. So this is our reality, right? We can all agree. Issues over the last 5 years have brought agriculture, food, and farming to the national limelight in ways that we probably don't want to think about. So when you consider where some of these messages really hit people, where do they hit them? Where? Pocketbook? No. Emotions. Okay, and with all due respect, I hope you all know me well enough to know that I love agriculture as much as anybody in the room. But this is what we do. First off, why are you asking a question? You should just believe in me. Secondly, of course we do the right thing. That's how we make money. And thirdly, USDA conclusively proves that scientific research shows for the last 100 years, right? That's what we do. And just for clarification for the scientists in the room, I have an animal science degree. I fully believe in science. People don't buy science, my friends. I'm very curious to see what the next speaker has to say. I'm very interested in it because our society has a major issue with science, and that is a problem for our business. But we will never, ever compete with this if we wait to react and we throw facts at them and do the data dump, as I like to talk about, right? Do we relate to people's values? Can we validate what we're doing on the farm is right, and can we give voice to it as an authentic human being? In my eyes, that's what it ultimately boils down to. So again, why should they care? My challenge to all of you today is to put yourself in the shoes of the woman that's downstairs in the lobby. Now, guys, I'm realizing you're probably wondering how this is going to work. Point is, how many of you can relate to people out on the street in DC? How many of you can relate to people on the street in San Francisco? And some of you probably don't want to, I'm sure. No comment on that. But it really comes down to being able to relate on values. You all have seen the research that's come out. the Center for Food Integrity obviously shows that we have to relate on values. There's been study after study after study that shows the necessity of that. Illinois farm families, people trust the practice, trust farmers, but they don't trust the practice of farming, right? USFRA, people need to relate on values. I'm not sure how much more research needs to be done. We don't seem to be able to grasp that first we have to connect with people on a values orientation, and we have to think who we are, okay? This is going to get a little bit weird, especially for the guys, so prepare yourselves. We're going to talk about feelings here. All right? I'm not going to ask anybody to do a Kumbaya song and a group hug afterwards. Paul's looking like he really does not like me right now. Okay, so in all dead seriousness, you were given a worksheet. On the top left of the worksheet, I want you to think about who am I? You are not allowed to write agriculturalist, farmer, or rancher, nor are you allowed to write the number of acres, the number of cattle, or the number of cows that you have. Got it? This is a major challenge for people who are out in the barn every single day. You were not created as a farmer. You were created as a human being, right? Simplistic, perhaps. A misstep for agriculture. Absolutely. So who are you? Are you a dad? Are you a mom? Are you a Christian? Are you a football fan? Do you cheer for the world's coolest school, which is Michigan State Spartans, by the way, in case you didn't know? I know we have at least one Spartan on site. Anybody else? Are you a Green Bay Packer? Oh, a couple Spartans. There you go. Who are you as a human being? And you have to know that. You have to know certainly what you love, what drives you, because you'll never be able to connect that with other people. And then if you go to the upper right of your worksheet, who are you talking to? I want you to think about all of the different people that you can focus on. Some of you will be very successful here on the Hill. Others of you will be more successful in the classroom. Some of you, believe it or not, will be very successful on Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest, which we'll talk about in a bit here. And some of you may be equally as successful in your church parking lot after Sunday services, having a conversation with people in your local community. But if you can't complete those top two steps of really who you are as a human being and who you're talking to, we don't have a chance at winning this game, folks. Again, 1.5% of the population will never win the majority value. So, next up, I want you to really think about the value of the authentic agriculture story. And this program is actually inspired by my experience that I had about a year ago. I did something I swore that I was never going to do, okay? I went and I spoke for the National Speakers Association. Could you possibly imagine a more critical crowd than speaking to other professional speakers? No way, no shape was I ever going to do this in my career. However, a very good friend had asked me, and she asked me to showcase agriculture. So, I can't be a hypocrite, can I? So I put my money where my mouth is, where I challenge all of you, and I gave a workshop on agriculture's use in social media. And I will tell you, I was wet my pants nervous up until about 5 minutes before that workshop, because I didn't know what to say. I didn't feel like I really had anything to say, because all I wanted to talk about was agriculture, and those weren't my peeps. You know, they're a bunch of professional speakers. They don't know anything about agriculture. There was not one agriculture person in the room. And I figured out the reason why I was wet my pants nervous was because of the fact that I didn't feel like I was being authentic to who I was. Once I realized that all I had to do was go in and talk about what I love and relate it in a way that was meaningful to other professional speakers, I was able to get in there and actually change their perspective entirely about agriculture. Because I talked about things like GPS, which, by the way, they were dumbfounded when I explained that we've had GPS on tractors for 10 plus years. All right, they don't get that. But what really was the most memorable about the whole experience there was I had done a call out within the Ag Chat community on Twitter, which we'll talk about here in a bit. You can't really read this, but the point is I had over 500 tweets in 60 minutes, 500 messages coming in, and we had it set up so they were flowing in on the screen. And it was farmers and ranchers from the United States, Canada, and Australia, as well as agribusiness people. So you can see that there's meat people, there's Willie Boat up there, there's all sorts of great people, including Manitoba Pork and some consumers talking about why agriculture used social media to be able to connect with people who cared about that. 500 plus messages in a 60-minute time period on a Sunday afternoon, mind you. So when I think about the opportunity to be able to connect on values and to be able to share our agriculture story, right there is where the authenticity is at. It's in the community. And my question to all of you is, how can you better build a community today? Because that's where the challenges are. We all know when, quote, pink slime, unquote, hit, it was probably too late. Yes? You want a case study of what goes wrong when people have misinformation? Look at RBST. As a dairy person, I can track that from the beginning to the end. Horse slaughter, yet another issue. So when we wait to react and we don't have that community support, it's way too late, right? So, next question is really, first off, is go down to the bottom left of your sheet. What's important to you? What are your values? What are your priorities? What are your hot buttons? What are the things you care most sincerely about? So, I would guess a lot of you are going to put profit. You're going to put things like keeping my farm in business. But I would urge you to consider things such as family. And really get down to the core values. All right? Now, I know you're not going to be able to do this successfully in 5 minutes. But I would encourage you to step back and think about what's important to you. So, next question is the far more difficult one. What's important to them? And this is down in the bottom right of your worksheet. When you think about urbanite mom, let's just throw some ideas out. What do you really think is important to them? Time? What else? Kids? Health? Money? What else? Food? Husband if she's got one. Okay. How about elected officials? What's important to them? Yeah. Yesterday you heard from some media folks. What's important to them?
Ratings.
Ratings? What else? Transparency? Honesty? How about having an expert source? If you're familiar with the International Food Information Council, that clearly shows that media, and this is a couple of years ago, would rather talk about education and terrorism than agriculture for one reason and one reason alone. Anybody know what that is? Because they have experts and they couldn't find experts in agriculture. Folks, you've heard it from farm broadcasters, you heard it yesterday. We have to do a better job of responding to the media, like it or not, and being able to understand what's important to them and what's important to their readers. In my opinion, this is where agriculture has failed very consistently, is really taking time and being able to know what's important to them and really being able to focus on that. So when you consider the values, those are some of the considerations to give. The next step is the validation. How are you validating what is happening is right on a farm? And how are you validating that practices that we use today are in fact better than they were 50 years ago? Or more importantly, how are you validating people's questions? What do we have a tendency to do in agriculture when people ask us a question? Science, but what do we first do? Particularly if you're online.
Ignore it.
Ignore it, perhaps.
Tell them they're wrong.
What's that?
Tell them they're wrong.
Tell them they're wrong, perhaps.
Get defensive.
Get defensive. Agriculture, get defensive? How many of you have been asked a question and you've thought in the back of your mind, why in the heck are these people asking me this stupid question? Or how about this one? How ignorant are they anyhow? I mean, let's be honest, folks. You may think that you're in the business of farming In reality, you're in the courtroom of public opinion every single day, and all of us in this room represent agriculture. And I want you to really think about the interest that you have in connecting with people. And you look at the signposts up there, one says heaven and one says hell. You decide where we're at right now. I'm not thinking the sky's looking real blue and pretty, personally. I don't know about all of you. So, have a little bit of a fun with this. I want you to take a look at the need for the validation, and we'll see if the technology works a little bit better now here.
Hey guys. Hello.
Hi, how
It's Dana. I'll be taking care of you today. If you have any questions about the menu, please let me know.
I guess I do have a question about the chicken, if you could just tell us a little bit more about it.
The chicken is a heritage breed, woodland-raised chicken that's been fed a diet of sheep's milk, soy, and hazelnuts.
Okay, this is local?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm gonna ask you just one more time, and it's local.
It is.
Is that USDA organic, or Oregon organic, or Portland organic?
It's just all across the board, organic.
Hazelnuts, these are local?
How big is the area where the chickens are able to roam free?
I'm sorry to interrupt, I had exactly the same question.
4 acres. Give me just a second, I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
She's nice.
Well, you're doing the right thing.
I'm too apologetic.
You are.
I drove way too slow here today, didn't I? I am so weird with that gas pedal. The thing just moves the whole vehicle forward.
All right, so here is the chicken you'll be enjoying tonight.
You have this information. This is fantastic.
Absolutely. His name was Collin. Here are his papers, okay?
He looks like a happy little guy who runs around. A lot of friends, other chickens as friends. Putting his little wing around another one and kind of like palling around.
I don't know that I can speak to that level of intimate knowledge about him. They do a lot to make sure that their chickens are very happy.
When you say they, I mean, who are these people raising Collin?
It's a farm that's located about 30 miles south of Portland.
And you feel, like you have a good relationship with this farm?
We do.
But is that some guy on a yacht who lives in Miami?
Oh,
who's
goodness,
just
no.
saying that he's organic?
It tears at the core of my being the idea of someone just cashing in on a trend like organic.
No, I know the type, no.
Yeah.
Tell you what, we're gonna go check it out if you don't mind. Just if you could hold our seats.
Oh, now?
Yeah, and we'll be right back. Just want to make sure.
Just, you know, thank you so much, Dana.
Sure.
Okay, so how many of you have eaten in Portland before? You know that is actually true. How many have seen the video clip previously? Yeah, it's been out there for a while. If you haven't seen it, does it represent our reality? What do you guys think? Yeah, no, maybe so? Yeah. In Portland, what major city do you live closest to? Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that you can probably find people in Oklahoma City as well. Now, this may sound extreme to you, but it clearly shows the need for us to be able to validate. I personally don't need to know my chicken was named Collin. As a matter of fact, I could care less what the stupid bird looked like because they're ignorant, quite frankly, and I can't stand chickens. No offense to the poultry people. I love eating your products. They're delightful, but I like eating them. I don't want to know anything about them. But that's our reality. So we have to find some different ways to be able to validate with people that we are actually human beings. So I'm going to bring out 2 different examples. One which the women in the room will be able to relate to, as well as Steve from Minnesota, I might add. The other I will relate to the men. So, ladies, anybody like DSW? Oh yeah, shoe shopping? Anybody love shoe shopping here? All right, anybody friends with me on my Facebook? What do I have in my timeline cover picture? Awesome shoes. That's what she just said. There's one shoe, there's the other shoe, and I have pictures of them in a bed of straw with my boxing gloves. Why on earth would I do something so stupid? You like it. It's who you are. Does it validate that I am a normal human being? Women only are allowed to answer this. Yeah, he's back there shaking his head saying, I know, no way. All right, so let me try another one on. Gentlemen, this is for you. Validating my existence for you. This last Christmas, I did something I never thought I would do. Bought my husband a tractor for Christmas. Drove it across our field, videotaped singing, jingling all the way, delivering a tractor on Christmas Day. If you're connected with me on Facebook, you know that to be accurately true. Why on earth would a woman ever buy a tractor, guys? You love it. Didn't like his tractor. So here's the way the tractor buying process went. In the middle of December, I called up the tractor dealer that I knew that he said had the best deal. I pretended, of course, that I wasn't listening the whole time, ladies, you know how this goes, and said whatever. Called him and said, okay, here's the deal. Here's my price level. If you can meet that level, deliver the tractor by Christmas to my neighbor who happens to be a partner in your dealership. Deal made. You need to understand one thing. I'm a farm girl. I'm not mechanical. If you need to talk to me about tractor things, we're going to have to discuss thingamaboppers. Okay? That's how I talk. I talk thingamaboppers. So I got the deal done. On the way to the airport one trip, he delivered it 2 days before Christmas after the tractor went missing, 4 days before Christmas, giving me a slight heart attack. He calls me up and says, okay, everything's set. We're on our way to deliver it to you. I want you to know that there's a couple of upgrades on it. I said, okay, what are they? He said, one's the rear wheel weights. I knew what that was. I said, that's a good thing. The next one, he says, there's a rear remote, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I said, what on earth is a rear remote thing? He goes, well, it's a thingamabopper that raises stuff up and down. I said, okay, deal done. Tractor delivered. So guys, I want you to know that I actually have had several men come up and give me their wives' numbers to text following my presentation. Why on earth would I start talking about shoes and tractors with you?
It's who you are.
It's who I am, but more importantly, who does it relate to? So, how do we do that with farming? How do we do that with the people who want the Collin validation factor?
Name our chickens.
No. But nice idea. You know, you've been hit over the head nonstop, and I am not going to look up a YouTube video on strippers, by the way. You've been hit over the head nonstop here about online. We all get that it's online, right? Have you all seen the study that shows that people aren't reading newspapers to get their information? You have a question. Your child has a question. As a parent, what do you do when you don't know the answer? You Google it. So I challenge you all to go home and Google your sector of animal agriculture and abuse and activists and legislation. And I can just about guarantee you probably won't like what you find. When you look at the breadcrumbs that are out there about farming today, here's your cold reality. And I've been researching this for 3 years and a few months, and it disgusts me every single day when I see what the Humane Society of the United States does on Twitter and the fact that they've had a 144-fold increase in the last 3 years. When I look at the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals having nearly 1.4 million Facebook fans. And when I see that they've grown 20-fold and that they have nearly or more than 250,000 Twitter followers and they're on YouTube, we all know the power of videos. I'm not going to put the video numbers in there. You go down through Greenpeace and you can see they've actually had a 200-fold increase in 3 years on Twitter, Farm Sanctuary, so forth and so on. These are the breadcrumbs of authentic agriculture to the 98.5% of the population not on a farm. Are you okay with that? I'm not either. And I share those numbers with you. And quite frankly, I get in farmers' faces nearly on a daily basis, smack them up a little bit with great love, because this is why you have to be online. We know it's where people are going for information and where you can best validate your practices of farming on a massive scale are doing things like, yes, shooting a video of a tractor driving across the field and talking about why it matters. When you can go out into the barn and you can shoot a quick video of your animal care practices and the fact that it's an honor and a privilege for you to care for those animals. Yes, they will die to provide us food, but it's an honor and a privilege, and hey, this is what we do. And have a little bit of fun with it. Because if you're not doing that, I can about guarantee you, this is where the breadcrumbs are being left about what you do. And to answer a couple of concerns, because I know these are always the ones that come up when I work with people on social media, time and privacy, right? Who has time to do this? Unless you're in a communications position for an organization, I'm asking you for 15 minutes a day on social media. That's it. People who tweet, how many tweets can you send out in 15 minutes? Charles, how many tweets can you send out in 15 minutes? Yeah. Oh, you fibbing. How about Mr. Hort's Dairyman back there? How many can you send out? Yeah, that's right. Oh, there you go. You can retweet him 20 times. Fact is it doesn't have to take a lot of time to do this, but it absolutely validates the need for agriculture, the value of our practices, and so forth. So when you consider the voice aspect of it, we all talk about, oh, we have to do a better job of telling agriculture story. We need to have more of a voice. The question is how can you give more of an authentic voice to agriculture? And as we've already discussed, there are a lot of different ways to do it. There's a lot of you that are doing tremendous programs. I, for one, think that we need to do a better job at having more individual voices out there. I certainly applaud all the organizations in the room that have tried to get farmers here, tried to get farmers involved with USFRA, but let's face it, it continues to be a challenge. So I want to do a quick little thing. If you want to pull out your cell phones here, we are going to have some interaction, new style. And this is a poll that should update live. The first 40 people are the only ones who get to participate, so better get your names in quick. So what you need to do is text if you are texting to 22333, or you can also tweet @poll with the particular code. Or if you're online, you can see what you can do. So the question is, how can agriculture have a stronger voice to connect with the public? And I genuinely would like your ideas here. And to get some voting going. The first one is fostering ag organizations working together rather than recreating the wheel. Second one is increase farm and ranch videos on YouTube. Third one is educate consumers, legislators, and other key influencers. Fourth one is hire Jamie Oliver, Michael Pollan, and Oprah. Thank you, that was supposed to be funny. Next one is train more farmers and ranchers to engage on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Next to last one is expect agribusiness and ag organizations to lead the conversation. And the final one is other. And yes, this means that you will have to talk to MPK by putting your hand in the air if you choose that one. So if you just simply text or tweet your codes in, you will find that your voting will be able to take a look at this. And just out of curiosity, while people are doing this, I'd like to know how many of you work for an agribusiness in the room? Okay. And how many of you work for an agriculture organization? Check off, not for profit. And how many of you are farmers and ranchers? So pretty good mix. And of farmers and ranchers, how many of you are on Facebook? How many of you tweet? How many of you think social media is the stupidest thing you've ever heard of and you wish that it would go away? Yeah, well, reality check. You know my answer to that one. You've heard it before. All right, so we've got all sorts of voting going on. I share this with you. This is called Poll Everywhere if you're in an organization and you give presentations. I do a couple of different things in my presentations now. Well, that was lovely. Where I actually have people text me live, and I don't have my phone on me, so don't text me if you have that number. There we go. Or I use Poll Everywhere just to demonstrate some technology in place. So it looks like the vast majority of people are coming in on training more farmers and ranchers to engage on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. And the next one right now is increasing farm and ranch videos on YouTube. The next one is educating. And then we have, oh, interesting, expect agribusinesses and ag organizations to lead the conversation. And nobody has enough guts to put other. Afraid I'm going to pick on you? All right, so talk to me a little bit more about training farmers and ranchers. How do we do that? Yes, sir.
You talk about dropping breadcrumbs.
Yes.
There's particular ways to do that, or just generating content do that in and of itself?
I think that there are a couple of different ways to do that. I do believe content is king, but if content is queen, or king, your face is queen. Charles, on your Facebook, you are going to be made an example of right now. What do you have a picture of as your profile picture? Charles, what do you have a picture of? I'm on a mission to get every farmer and rancher in the room to change their picture from a cow's butt, a hog's head, or a tractor. Charles is not saying, he has a caricature of a hog on there that he seems to think is very cool, which is lovely. I love hogs. I love pork products. There's nothing wrong with swine. There's nothing wrong with poultry. We love all commodities, of course. However, people do not relate to a cow's butt, a tractor, a combine, or a hog's head. Fair enough? So one of the ways to do it, in all seriousness, and I will tell you in all transparency, I struggle with this terribly. It's photo and it's video. I struggle with photo because of privacy concerns that I personally have and security concerns with activists, and having a family that lives in the sticks. I will not put my family's information on my Facebook because obviously I'm fairly high on the radar screen. If you've heard me speak, you've heard me talk about this. If you want to know more about how I protect my privacy, I will share that with you. But where I'm really awful at is video. I hate looking at myself on video. Yeah, I mean, how many of you feel stupid and feel like you're an idiot on video? Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. But we have to do it because when those videos come out of us beating on cows, poking hogs, doing things that, yes, we say are industry standard practices, it's a problem. So if we don't put photos up there, Tech, can we take a look at what the LCD issue seems to be? Because it is bouncing back and forth. So long answer to your question, I think that part of it is content, but really personalizing it has to be critical. Does that make sense, Charles? All right, so we ended on training more farmers and ranchers. So how are you guys training farmers and ranchers? Talk to me a little bit. Or how have you been trained if you're a farmer and rancher? You guys are. Workshops on social media, okay. How many have just gotten in there and gotten their hands dirty and done it? Yeah? How many of you are there but they have no idea what they're doing? Yeah. So the next one is the foster ag organizations working together. We've got lots of efforts on that. Increase farm and ranch videos on YouTube. We talked a little bit about that. So the next one is expect agribusiness and ag organizations to lead the conversation. Let's talk a little bit about that. Not to pick on anybody in particular, I'm a great fan of Elanco, but since that's your chairman's company, I will go ahead and pick on Elanco. Elanco actually does an incredible job in talking about food insecurity. I mean, their CEO does a video that even brings me to tears. And if you've ever been in a country where you see hungry children, you know that to be true. However, does a video from Elanco have the same impact as a video from a horse person talking about the terrible demise of the equine business and what that has done to animal welfare? It never will. So somehow we need to find the marriage, and I don't have the perfect answer here, but we need to find the marriage of being able to have farmers and ranchers and all of you in the room having individual conversations, individual connections, and have agribusinesses and agriculture organizations helping lead the conversation behind the scenes. Not to manipulate people, but then the last one is the educate. So let's talk about educating consumers, legislatures, and other key influencers. I think it's the survey. How many of you think that we just need to educate people and be done with it? Come on, be honest. It's up there on the poll results. So some of you think it. Do we need to educate people? What's that?
Educate but not be done. You have to continually.
Okay. So how many of you think that education is the wrong approach? Okay, why?
I picked up a piece of information, I don't even remember where, a while back, that really made a lot of sense to me and really resonated with me when talking to like Congress or legislators
Yep.
about these issues. And that is that nobody wants to be educated.
Bingo. Why not?
They want to be informed. So I have basically trained myself to approach them with that. I'm going to inform you about what's going on in agriculture, what's happening with the horse business.
Sure. Yeah.
Educate implies ignorance.
Educate implies ignorance. So, case in point, I want to educate you about how cool Holsteins are, and you just need to listen, John. Yeah, those funny spotted black men. They smell a lot less than your dirty little things. Seriously, how would you feel if somebody walked up and got in your face? We have a tendency, again, I love all of agriculture, but we have a tendency to say things like, well, we just need to educate you about where your food comes from. Or, one of my favorite ones, if you've eaten a day, you should thank a farmer. Or perhaps the ones about where you shouldn't complain about farming with a full stomach. Perhaps those are all fine in agriculture circles, but I would ask you how that resonates with the woman in the lobby downstairs. I dare say it comes off as arrogant, defensive, and very disinterested in the other party. And the authenticity in agriculture's voice is in our concern for other people, okay? It's not about educating them. It's about having a conversation. So, how many times has transparency been spoken at this conference? Hundreds, probably, correct? What does transparency really mean? It's a challenge to define it. I can tell you as an agriculture person through and through, I have no desire whatsoever to watch a video of a slaughterhouse. I know what happens in there. I appreciate what happens in there. But I will tell you that as a human being, it affects me negatively. So is that transparency? For me, no, it's not. For the next person, it might be. Is it transparency to show every single practice that we do on our farm? If people are asking questions, perhaps it is. But reality is that the transparency is in the conversation. And the conversations happen a lot of different places out there. They're happening on Facebook. There's 840 million people there. They're happening on Twitter. There's 300 million people on there. And there are examples across the agriculture community where there's all sorts of conversations that are happening, like Ag Chat and Food Chat, which if you don't know, it happens on Tuesday nights. There's been more than 15,000 people that have participated from 15 countries. Started 3 years ago. I will tell you that I started it because I thought agriculture needed to have a conversation and work together more effectively. I will tell you I had no dreams of what it would ever turn into. 2 years ago, the Ag Chat Foundation was launched by a group of farmers to really help advocate through social media. And if you want to know more, go check out agchat.org. There is a very strong community in agriculture speaking out online. That's just one example. And there's training that's available, and when you look at the dollars that are in social today and you pay attention to what's happening on Facebook in particular with advertising, have any of you had the lovely experience of having the animal rights ads pop up on your Facebook? Okay, so $8 billion are expected to be spent this year alone in advertising. $8 billion. We all know that it's completely changed the way that we can have a voice. I think we're okay now, so thank you. I appreciate it. And so really it's about being able to take a look at some of the changes and being able to think about how you are going to connect. And as I said earlier, I don't really care how you do it, but I do care that you evaluate the new tools with the bigger picture in mind. I have had a lot of farmers tell me throughout the course of speaking for 11 years, well, I don't really care because that's not an issue in my state. Or I don't really care because it's not impacting me on the farm. My question is always, well, what about the bigger agriculture? What about the agriculture that is going to be impacted, that you will eventually, 5 years, see the negative benefits of the regulations? We saw that yesterday. And so when you look at some of the new tools, this is Pinterest. Men, how many of you think that Pinterest is all about wedding dresses, shoes, and recipes? Yeah, okay. How many people in the room are on Pinterest? How many have no idea whatsoever what this Pinterest thing is? All right, Pinterest is a virtual bulletin board. It is image driven, so if you are an image person, you like pictures, this is where it's at. It has grown faster than what Twitter or Facebook did at its advent. It is now plateauing. However, this is what I have discovered. I started this food farm, agriculture and rural America board back at the beginning of the year. It now has 890 some followers, most of which are not in agriculture, and I have 120 some people pinning from all over the States and Canada. Images about what's happening in the farm, recipes from the farm, what's happening with cows, cute little cowboys, so forth and so on. So does this make an impact with our voice? Are you sure? So why aren't more doing it?
circle to people
Sure.
that you don't know.
So if I may summarize your questions, how do you not preach to the choir?
Exactly.
How many of you in this room think that all we do is ever preach to the choir? Yeah, we do a tremendous amount. I will tell you that Facebook, it is very challenging to do that. And I've already shared with you that my Facebook is a little bit different because it's not personal. It is more business-oriented and advocacy-oriented. But I have actually friended most of the friends that came in from high school, you know, the requests that come in from way back of people that you haven't seen, extended family members, my professional speaker network, local friends, and so forth. I actually have a policy, and I do advise everybody in the room to have a policy of who you are willing to friend or not. Has anybody received my lovely message of, I'm sorry, I have no idea why you want to be my friend. Can you please let me know where we've met? Was it offensive?
When I first read it was, and I thought, no, I understand.
Yeah, I do that for one reason and one reason alone. Security. I don't let people on my Facebook if they can't tell me where they saw me speak or why they have a vested interest in agriculture. End of story. And if I don't like what you're doing, I unfriend you without a second's notice. And I mean that with all due respect. If people are just bugging me, I just hide them from my feed like most of us do. But the challenge on Facebook is you do spend a lot of time in the choir. So you start expanding your circles. Twitter, in my experience, I don't know how many of you would agree with this, but Twitter, in my experience, is the easiest place to go beyond the agriculture crowd. I will tell you that in all of my career, I never expected to be in USA Today, CNN, other mainstream media, and I have been for one reason and one reason alone. Twitter. And it's not because I'm doing anything any different or because I'm so great. It's the connection factor. Pinterest, I actually hesitated a long time because I really do not need another tool to monkey around with, right? How many of us are just completely maxed out and over-socialized? Yeah. I waited a long time. I actually almost went on Pinterest under a different name just because I just wanted to be a girl on Pinterest. Then I decided that would be A, unethical, and B, irresponsible. And so I started this board just to play around with it and monkey around with it. And I'm fascinated by the people that follow it because in most cases, as far as I can tell, they're unrelated to agriculture. On LinkedIn, I'm actually connected with a lot of registered dietitians because I also work in the nutrition arena. Again, I actually talk about advocacy with them, but I do it and I try to educate about agriculture at the same time. That makes sense. So does that answer your question? Yeah. So there's a lot of different tools out there that can give us a voice. I want you to take a minute there in the centers of your sheets, and I don't care, again, if it's social media or if it's a personal conversation. How can you connect personally? How can you connect with people on values? So is it at your county fair? Is it going to the Hill? Is it getting on a radio show? Is it sucking up your pride and shooting a YouTube video? Is it posting pictures on Facebook? The real question is really about how you can connect your authentic agriculture story. Getting out of your comfort zone. Yeah, if my lovely video had showed, it would have showed you a whole bunch of those sorts of thoughts on that. It's about taking the risk, and it's about embracing today's technology instead of saying that it's a stupid tool that I wish would just go away. And it's not doing it the same way today that you were using it 1 year ago today. All right, so if you want to take about that, so in summary, we talked about the ability to have an authentic connection. And it's about to lead with the human values. It's about serving as a resource of information for your community. I know this works because of examples that I've seen from professional speakers that suddenly started posting information about food. And I asked them, where on earth did that come from? And they told me, well, where do you think? Came from you, Michele. And then I had our local optometrist, are you hooking me? I had our local optometrist message me on Facebook when the multi-million-dollar meat in a test tube release came out. You all know what I'm talking about? And she said, Michele, what's wrong with me eating animals? I just want to be able to eat an animal. I don't want my meat from a test tube. Just let me have a hamburger and leave me alone. I know that serving as a resource works in validating people's questions because they at least know where they can come to. And if you wait to validate people's concerns until the next nasty video comes out, until the next pink slime, BSE, or whatever other issue comes out, it's too late. But if you take the time to have that validation now, then we stand a much better chance of mitigating those concerns on a proactive basis and being, quote, transparent, unquote. So, the last one is don't complain if your own skin isn't in the game. If your voice, your personal voice, isn't in the mix, I don't need to hear you bitching and moaning. With all due respect, sorry for the bad language, but the reality is if we don't put our own skin in the game, then we shouldn't be talking to other people about doing it. All of you have a unique and authentic agriculture story to share. All of you have an opportunity to showcase the values that you have, connect with other people's values, validate their concerns, and give voice to agriculture. And so when you think about the authentic agriculture story, I would encourage you to really consider what are you growing and to consider what we are doing in this business. Because you know, we spend a whole lot of time talking about products. We talk about cattle, we talk about hogs, we talk about chickens, turkeys, we talk about eggs, we talk about soybeans, we talk about corn, we talk about wheat, sorghum. Did I miss anybody? Veal? Veal's here, beef. But we do not spend a whole lot of time really focusing on the other side of the food plate. We say that we do, but do we really step back and from a human standpoint consider that? I found this quote on a hotel room wall at the Hotel PT in Perry, Iowa. And it says that if you want 1 year of grain, you can grow, or if you, excuse me, you want 1 year of prosperity, you can grow grain. If you want a decade of prosperity, you can grow trees. But if you want a lifetime of prosperity, it's about growing people. My question to all of you is, are you growing people through your authentic agriculture story? I hope and pray that you are, because I can certainly tell you that we need your voice in the conversation. We need your skin in the game.